Mother, please come out! Please, I need your help, please!
My daughter, what did you want?
Make me beautiful, River Mami. Please, make me beautiful in the eyes of anyone in the village.
First, you must never take these beads off your waist. Not to bathe, not to sleep, not for any reason.
In a small sun-drenched village nestled between the great orange baobab trees and the golden hills of the savannah, there lived a young woman named Zuri. Now, Zuri was a soul of pure gold. She was the first person to wake up every morning to sweep the elders' compound. She was the one who carried the heaviest water pots for the mothers who were tired. Her hands were rough from hard work, and her heart was open to everyone. But in this village, people did not look at the heart. They only looked at the skin and the hair. You see, Zuri was different from the other girls. While the other young women had skin that glowed like polished bronze and long, thick hair that they braided with colorful threads and beads, Zuri was very, very thin. Her ribs showed when she breathed, and her arms looked like fragile, dry sticks. But the thing that made the village children point and the adults whisper was her head. Zuri had no hair at all. Her scalp was as smooth as a river stone, and no matter what oils or herbs she used, not a single strand would grow. In the village of Oakhaven, beauty was seen as a blessing from the ancestors, and because Zuri looked the way she did, people treated her as if she were cursed. When she walked to the market to sell her small harvest of yams, the other women would pull their children away. Don't stand too close to her, they would hiss, not caring if Zuri heard. Her bad luck might jump onto you. The young men were the most cruel. They would gather under the shade of the trees, laughing and boasting about who they would marry. When Zuri passed by, one would shout, "Hey Zuri, I was going to ask for your hand, but I couldn't find a place to put the wedding crown. Your head is too slippery." Then they would all burst into mean laughter, their voices ringing in Zuri's ears like stinging bees. Zuri would keep her head down, her eyes burning with tears she refused to let fall. She would go home to her tiny, lonely hut and sit by the dying embers of her fire. She would look at her reflection in a bowl of water and hate what she saw. "Why am I a joke to them?" she would ask the shadows. "I work hard, I am kind, but all they see is a girl who is too thin and too bald." One afternoon, the teasing turned into a nightmare. A group of girls cornered Zuri at the well. They began to chant, "Skinny stick, bald head, no man will ever share your bed." One girl, jealous of Zuri's hard-working nature, splashed a bucket of muddy water all over her. Zuri stood there, dripping and shivering, as the village square erupted in mockery. That was the moment something inside Zuri snapped. She didn't cry, she didn't fight, she simply turned and began to run. She ran past the huts, past the farms, and straight toward the one place everyone was told to avoid, the forbidden river. The air grew cold and the trees grew thick, but Zuri did not stop until she reached the water's edge. She waded into the dark, swirling center of the river and screamed at the sky, "River Mother, if you can hear me, change me. I don't want to be good anymore. I just want to be beautiful." The forbidden river did not act like a normal body of water. As Zuri stood in the center, the waves did not splash against her. Instead, they began to swirl in a perfect silent circle around her waist. The air grew heavy with the scent of crushed lilies and ancient earth. Suddenly, the water in front of her rose up, tall and shimmering, taking the shape of a woman. This was the Mami of the river. Her skin was the color of the deep sea, and her hair was made of flowing water that never stopped moving. Around her neck were pearls that glowed like tiny moons. "Why do you cry, daughter of the earth?" the river mother asked. Her voice sounded like 1,000 raindrops hitting a drum. It was beautiful, but it made Zuri's heart tremble. Zuri fell to her knees in the water, her voice shaking. "Mother, I am tired of being the village joke. I am tired of being called a skinny stick and a bald ghost. I have a good heart, but no one cares. They only want beauty. Please, I beg you, use your magic. Make me so beautiful that the sun itself feels jealous when I walk outside." The River Mother looked at Zuri for a long time. Her eyes were deep and held the secrets of many years. "Beauty is a heavy gift, Zuri," she warned. "It changes the way the world sees you, but it can also hide the truth of who you are. If I give you this, you must promise to guard the secret with your life." The spirit reached into the darkest part of the riverbed and pulled out a strand of beads. They were not made of glass or clay. They were dark red, the color of a setting sun, and they seemed to pulse with a heartbeat of their own. "These are the magic waist beads," the Mami said. "They hold the power of the river's reflection." She stepped closer to Zuri, her watery form cooling the air. "I will give these to you, but there are 2 sacred rules you must never break. First, you must never take these beads off your waist, not to bathe, not to sleep, for no reason. Second, the string that holds them together must never be cut or broken. If those beads fall to the ground, the magic will not just leave you, it will turn against you. Do you accept the price?" Zuri didn't hesitate for even a second. She reached out and grabbed the glowing red beads. "I accept. I will wear them forever. Just make the mocking stop." "Then go," the River Mother whispered, her form beginning to dissolve back into the river. "Tie them tonight when the moon is at its highest. Tomorrow, the village will see a new Zuri." Zuri hurried back to her small hut, clutching the beads to her chest. She waited in the darkness, watching the moon crawl across the sky. When the midnight silence settled over the village, she stood up and tied the dark red string around her thin waist. The moment the knot was pulled tight, a surge of heat rushed through her body. It felt like fire was dancing under her skin. Her head began to tingle, and she felt a strange weight pulling at her scalp. Exhausted by the magic, she fell into a deep, dreamless sleep on her mat. When the first light of dawn peeked through the cracks in her door, Zuri awoke feeling different. She felt heavy. She felt warm. She slowly reached her hand up to her head, expecting to feel the smooth, cold skin she had known all her life. Instead, her fingers sank into something soft, thick and long. She sat up quickly and ran to her water bowl to see her reflection. Zuri gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. The woman in the water was a stranger. She had skin as smooth as silk, eyes that sparkled like stars, and a crown of long, beautiful black braids that fell past her shoulders. She was no longer thin and frail. She was shapely and stunning. She was the most beautiful woman the village had ever seen. But as she stood up to dance with joy, she felt the cold, hard press of the dark red beads against her skin. A reminder that her beauty was not hers, it belonged to the river.
The sun rose over the village of Oakhaven, but for the first time in her life, Zuri did not hide in the shadows. She stepped out of her hut, wearing a simple cloth that could not hide the radiance of her new form. As she walked toward the village square, the silence that followed her was different than before. It wasn't a silence of mockery. It was a silence of pure, breathless wonder. The women at the well dropped their clay pots, the water spilling unheeded into the dirt. The men who were sharpening their machetes froze, their mouths hanging open. "Who is she?" someone whispered. "Is she a visiting queen, a daughter of the stars?" When Zuri finally spoke, her voice was like a sweet melody. "It is I, Zuri," she said softly. The village erupted in gasps. They could not believe that this goddess was the same skinny stick they had chased away just days before. Suddenly, Zuri was the center of the world. The same people who once threw mud at her now brought her baskets of choice mangoes and fine silks. She was surrounded by admirers, but in her heart, Zuri felt a flicker of sadness. She realized that these people didn't love her. They loved the magic beads hidden beneath her clothes. However, the praise felt too good to give up. She bathed in their attention, finally feeling like she was worth something. Word of the miracle beauty of Oakhaven traveled far beyond the Golden Hills, reaching the ears of the royal palace. Prince Kwame, the son of the great king, decided to see this woman for himself. Kwame was a man known for his wisdom and his gentle spirit. He was tired of the empty-headed women who only cared for gold and titles. He wanted a wife with a soul as bright as her face. When Kwame arrived in the village on his noble horse, the crowds parted. He looked at Zuri, and for a moment, the world seemed to stop. He saw her beauty, yes, but he also saw the lingering kindness in her eyes. He approached her and bowed low. "Zuri," he said, his voice deep and sincere. "The stories do not do you justice, but I see a light in you that is more than just skin deep. Will you walk with me?" Over the next few weeks, Kwame courted Zuri with flowers and poetry. He told her about his dreams for the kingdom and how he wanted to help the poor. Zuri found herself falling deeply in love with him. He was the first person to truly listen to her. He treated her like a treasure, not a joke. When he finally asked her to be his wife, Zuri felt like she was in a beautiful dream. The wedding was the grandest event the land had ever seen. There were drums that could be heard for miles and enough food to feed 10 villages. Zuri sat beside Kwame, glowing in her bridal finery. Everyone cheered for the beautiful couple. But as the dancing continued into the night, Zuri felt a sharp tug at her waist. The dark red beads were tight, tighter than usual. As they entered their private chambers for the first time as husband and wife, a cold shiver ran down Zuri's spine. The celebration was over, and the secret was now her greatest burden. Kwame turned to her, his eyes full of love. "My beautiful Zuri," he whispered, "you look so tense. Let us cast aside these heavy wedding clothes and the jewelry. You are home now. You don't need to hide behind any ornaments." Zuri stepped back, her hand instinctively clutching her waist where the beads lay hidden. "No, my prince," she said, her voice trembling. I must keep these on. It is a vow I made to my ancestors. If I remove them, the blessing of our marriage will vanish." Kwame looked confused, but because he was a patient and kind man, he nodded. He didn't know that beneath the silk, Zuri was sweating with fear, wondering how long she could keep the River Mother's secret.
Life in the royal palace was like a fairy tale, but for Zuri, it was a fairy tale lived in a cage of her own making. As the weeks turned into months, Zuri and Prince Kwame became the most beloved couple in the kingdom. To the outsiders, they were perfect. They sat together on the throne, they visited the sick, and they laughed in the palace gardens. But when the sun dipped below the horizon and the palace torches were lit, the laughter ended and the fear began. Every night was a battle of excuses. Zuri knew that she had to keep the dark red waist beads hidden at all costs. She remembered the River Mother's voice. "You must never take these beads off. The string must never be cut." She knew that if Kwame saw the beads, he would ask questions. If he touched them, he might feel the strange pulsing magic. And if she took them off, she would return to the thin, hairless girl that the world despised. One evening, after a long day of ceremonies, Kwame came to their room and found Zuri sitting by the window looking out at the moon. He sat beside her and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder.
"Zuri," he said softly, his voice filled with a sadness that broke her heart. "We have been married for many moons now, yet I feel like there is a wall between us that I cannot climb. You always wear these heavy robes to sleep. You never let me hold you close. Why do you treat your husband like a stranger?" Zuri felt a lump in her throat. She wanted so badly to tell him the truth. She wanted to say, "Kwame, I am not the goddess you see. I am a lonely girl from a mean village who used magic to find love." But she was too afraid. She was sure that if he saw the real her, the love in his eyes would turn to disgust. "I am sorry, my prince," she whispered, turning her face away so he wouldn't see her tears. "I have been feeling very ill lately. My body aches and I need space to rest. It is a sickness from my childhood that comes and goes. Please have patience with me." Kwame sighed, a long and heavy sound. "I have had patience, Zuri. I have given you everything. I have defended you when the elders asked why we have no children yet. I have waited for you to trust me. Is it the beads? I see them sometimes peeking through your cloth. They look old and uncomfortable. Let me give you new ones, made of the finest gold and rubies. Why do you cling to those dark red stones as if they are your life?" Zuri panicked. "No! You must not touch them. They are sacred," she cried out, her voice louder than she intended. Kwame jumped back, surprised by her anger. He looked at her for a long time, his expression changing from love to confusion and then to a quiet, stinging hurt. "I do not care about beads, Zuri," Kwame said firmly. "I care about my wife. But it feels like I am married to a secret, not a woman. If you cannot be open with me, then we are living a lie." That night, for the first time, Kwame slept on the far edge of the bed, leaving a wide, cold space between them. Zuri lay awake, her heart thumping against her ribs. She felt the dark red beads pressing painfully into her skin, almost as if they were tightening, warning her that the magic was becoming unstable. She realized that her beauty had bought her a husband, but her secret was costing her his heart. She fell asleep crying, not knowing that this would be the last night her dream would stay alive. The atmosphere in the palace had grown heavy, like the air before a great thunderstorm. Zuri and Kwame lived in a silence that was louder than any shout. Zuri felt the weight of her secret pulling her down every single day. She began to realize that beauty was a lonely throne to sit upon when it was built on a lie. She wanted to tell Kwame everything, but every time she looked in the mirror at her beautiful face and long flowing braids, she was paralyzed by the fear of losing him. One night, the heat in the royal chamber was stifling. Zuri had spent the evening feeling particularly exhausted, her body heavy with a strange magical fatigue. She fell into a sleep so deep it was like being underwater. She did not hear the crickets outside, and she did not hear the rustle of the silk sheets as Kwame turned toward her in the darkness. Kwame lay awake, staring at the ceiling. His heart was full of a strange mixture of love and frustration. He looked at Zuri sleeping beside him. Even in the dim moonlight, she looked like a masterpiece carved by the gods. But his eyes drifted to her waist, where the dark red beads were visible through her thin sleeping gown. In the shadows, the beads didn't look like jewelry. They looked like a coiled snake, dark and suffocating. "She's having nightmares again," Kwame whispered to himself, noticing Zuri flinching in her sleep. "It is these beads. They are too tight. They are digging into her skin and stealing her peace. She clings to them because of some old superstition. But I am the prince. I will free her from this burden so she can finally breathe." Kwame truly believed he was doing a kind thing. He reached out his hand, his fingers trembling slightly. He touched the beads, and he was shocked by how cold they felt, cold as the bottom of a river in the middle of the night. He tried to find the knot to untie them, But there was no knot. The beads seemed to be fused together in a perfect, endless circle. Determined to help his wife, Kwame reached for a small silver-handled knife he kept on the bedside table for cutting fruit. Once these are gone, she will wake up and realize she doesn't need them to be loved, he murmured. He slid the blade beneath the dark red string. Snap! The sound was small, like a dry twig breaking in the forest, but to Zuri, it sounded like a thunderclap. The moment the string was cut, the dark red beads didn't just fall, they turned into liquid, black and oily, and soaked into the floor. Zuri's eyes flew open. She didn't scream yet. She couldn't. She felt a horrific sensation, as if her very soul was being sucked out of her skin. Her long, beautiful braids didn't just fall out, they withered into grey ash and blew away in a sudden, freezing wind that swept through the room. Her smooth, glowing skin began to wrinkle and fold, turning the color of dry mud. Her healthy limbs shriveled until she was nothing but skin and bone. Kwame dropped the knife, his face turning pale with a terror he had never known. "Zuri," he gasped, backing away. But the woman on the bed was no longer Zuri. She was a withered, terrifying hag, her eyes sunken in and her back hunched. She looked like a creature that had been dead for 100 years. "Ghost! Monster!" Kwame screamed, his voice breaking. He didn't see the woman he loved anymore. He saw a demon from the forbidden river. He scrambled toward the door, tripping over his own feet in his haste to escape the monster in his bed. He ran into the hallway, shouting for the guards, leaving Zuri alone in the dark, shivering in her new wretched body. The magic was gone, and the truth was far more hideous than she could have ever imagined.
The morning sun rose over the palace, but it brought no warmth to Zuri. The news of the monster in the prince's chambers had spread through the halls like wildfire. Guards and servants crowded the doorway, peeking in with faces full of horror. They didn't see the kind woman who had helped the poor. They only saw a shriveled, hairless creature with skin like dry bark. Zuri tried to speak, to call out for Kwame, but her voice was a ghostly rattle. When she looked for her husband, she learned the bitter truth. Kwame had fled the village in terror, unable to look at the woman he once called his queen. Zuri realized then that the village had not changed. They loved the beauty, but they feared the person. With her head bowed in shame, she wrapped herself in a tattered cloth and walked out of the palace. People who once bowed to her now threw stones and cursed her name. "Demon! Witch!" they shouted. She stumbled through the dusty streets, her weak legs shaking, until she reached the edge of the village. She didn't stop until she reached the familiar, cool shadows of the forest. She returned to the forbidden river, the place where her greed for love had started it all. She stood at the bank, looking at her reflection in the dark water. She was even more wretched than before. Her skin was grey, her eyes were hollow, and she was lonelier than she had ever been in her life. "River Mother," she cried out, her tears falling into the water. "Look at what has happened. I followed your rules as long as I could, but the world found me out. My husband has left me, and my village wants me dead. I am a monster now, more than I ever was before." The water began to churn, and the Mami of the river rose once more. She did not look sympathetic. She looked as cold as ice. "I warned you, Zuri," the spirit said. "Magic cannot fix a heart that does not love itself. You built a house of sand, and you are surprised when the tide washes it away. The beads were a test of trust, and you failed to trust your husband with the truth." "I cannot live like this," Zuri wailed, falling to her knees. "I cannot go back to being mocked, and I cannot stay here in the dirt. If I am to be a creature of the dark, then let me belong to the dark. Take me with you. Turn me into a spirit like you, so I never have to feel the sting of human words again. Please, I beg you, take me into the deep." The Mami of the river looked at the broken woman and sighed. "To enter the river is to leave the sun forever, Zuri.
You will never hear a human voice again. You will be a shadow in the current. I don't care, Zuri whispered. The sun only showed me my flaws. The water will hide me. The river mother reached out a long, watery hand. As Zuri took it, her tattered clothes fell away. Her body began to stretch and shimmer, turning into a silver mist. Slowly, she walked into the deep, swelling center of the river. Her feet left the mud, and she felt the cold water embrace her. She didn't sink, she dissolved, becoming part of the river's heartbeat. Today, the villagers tell the story of the beautiful Zuri who vanished. They say if you go to the Forbidden River and sit very quietly, you can see a thin, silvery shadow swimming beneath the surface. It is Zuri, the girl who traded her soul for a beauty that couldn't last, forever hiding in the water where no one can ever hurt her again. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this African folktale, please show us love by liking, sharing, and subscribing for more stories.